Hey everybody, what's going on? Just wanted to do this video to give my thoughts and opinions regarding a lot of stories that came out these last 2 weeks. So here it goes. One of the main stories was when Nate Diaz, younger brother of Nick Diaz, UFC fighter, 155 pounds, former The Ultimate Fighter winner, got fined $20,000 and was suspended for 90 days because he got on Twitter and insulted another UFC fighter, calling him a homophobic slur. You know, people were up in arms about it. They said that if you actually read the tweet that Diaz made, they said, oh, well, he wasn't trying to be, derogatory or homophobic or anything like that. But, the word he used, it's not something that, he should be saying. I mean, look, Nate, regardless of how he feels about it, he's a public figure, he's a professional athlete, and, when you're on that level, there's just some things you can't say. You just can't say, publicly anyway. Not saying, and by that, I'm not advocating the use of the word. I personally choose not to use that word, but when you're a public figure, you have to be careful about what you say and in what mediums you say it. Nate is not the first fighter to catch some heat for something like this. Just recently, maybe a few weeks ago, we had Matt Mitrione, Meathead, also get suspended and fined for making some very insulting comments with regards to transgender fighter Fallon Fox. The UFC isn't, like it was back in the early 90s, when it was a spectacle. Now it's a sport, and I like that Dana White and those in the UFC are taking it seriously and holding fighters accountable in the same way that any other professional athlete would be held accountable and would be fined for using this kind of language. Interestingly enough, Dana White and Joe Rogan have caught heat from using this word in the past. Joe Rogan used the word, went off on had a Twitter beef with some reporter, and he caught hell for it. Dana White, similar situation happened. Fans reacted very harshly to it, and they've since haven't been using the word. So this is a learning experience from Nate. Like I said, he's a public figure now. He's a professional athlete, and you just can't get on Twitter and just say whatever, man. This upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter, in case you haven't heard, will, the first time ever, 2 female coaches, and will actually feature male and female participants. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be very interesting. I get the feeling this is going to turn into real world. It's really interesting because everyone in the house can fight. Wow. Now, coaches it was supposed to be Ronda Rousey, current UFC champion, and Kat Zingano, who just beat Miesha Tate in order to win a spot to coach on the season of Ultimate Fighter, and then face Ronda Rousey afterwards for the championship. However, what happened is that Kat Zingano ended up hurting her knee and requiring surgery. So now Miesha Tate is back in. She's going to be the coach of this season of the Ultimate Fighter, and she's going to be, I think most likely she's going to be facing Ronda Rousey. I hope I'm saying that right. For some reason, when I hear her name, Rosie, I think it's Rousey, but I keep thinking Rosie. This is the fight. This is a matchup I believe the UFC wanted. Because these two girls kind of have, they have a history. In Strikeforce, Ronda Rousey actually beat Miesha Tate for the Strikeforce Women's Bantamweight Championship. There was a lot of back and forth in the lead up to the fight. Miesha expressed that she thinks the only reason Ronda's even getting a shot at the title was because she knows how to run her mouth. So these two have some blood. They have some bad blood between them. And when it comes to combat sports, there's nothing more marketable than bad blood. Nothing. Kat Zingano's out, Miesha Tate is in, and the bad blood and the beef is on between Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate. That should be interesting. They're currently filming The Ultimate Fighter. I think they said the cast members on the show were actually, the way they found out was when Miesha showed up at the training center instead of Kat. I haven't watched The Ultimate Fighter in a while, so this might actually be a season I watch. because it could be interesting. So UFC 164 is going to be headlined by Frank Mir taking on Josh Barnett. Now, for those of you who don't know who Josh Barnett is, he's a mixed martial arts fighter, former UFC champion. He was champion of the UFC many years back before leaving the organization. He won the championship after beating Randy Couture. Then he went on. He ended up getting stripped of the title because he failed the drug test, tested positive for banned substances, and went overseas, started competing in Pride, other Japanese organizations, did some moonlighting as a pro wrestler for a bit, and he's a tough guy. He's a real tough heavyweight. Catch wrestling background, really good with submissions. Has fought some of the best. He's fought Nogueira. I think he's fought Nogueira, Minotauro Nogueira twice. He's fought Mirko Cro Cop 3 times. Got beat by Mirko 3 times. I don't think he ever got a shot at fighting Fedor, but he did. He did really. He submitted his brother. But Barnett's tough. Barnett's tough, and a match between him and Frank Mir. Man, these guys, their styles favor each other very well. Both favor submissions, like heavyweight submission artists. I'm actually very surprised at this. Barnett had actually declined to sign with the UFC, and that was earlier, maybe a couple of days ago. That was the news, and then now we hear that not only has he signed a multi-fight deal with the UFC, but he's also going to be headlining the 164 card. So I think this is going to be a very good fight. Very good fight. And I think, it's going to be interesting to see, the submissions these guys are going to try to pull off on each other. If you guys want to get some background, look up Josh Barnett versus Mark Hunt. Look at Josh Barnett versus Randy Couture versus Pedro Izzo. Look at his fights against Minotauro Nogueira, against Mirko Cro Cop. Barnett's a tough dude. And it's definitely going to be. I'm excited at the prospect of him and Frank Mir facing each other. Look forward to UFC 164. Hopefully, no injuries in training. I think the card's still developing, but with that as a main event, that's enough to pique my interest. I'm looking forward to that already. There have been a number of fighters who have retired in the sport. Shane Carwin has announced his retirement. Gabe Rudiger, not cheesecake guy, cake guy off the Ultimate Fighter, couldn't make weight. Oh man, okay. I feel bad for him. He's gonna be infamously known for that stuff. But anyway, Gabe Rudiger announced he's gonna be retiring. Matt Serra announced he's retiring. But probably the biggest name to come out of the retirement talk, Forrest Griffin. Yeah, Forrest is retiring for mixed martial arts competition. Forrest talked about how his last couple fights he had to pull out due to injury, and he said you gotta take a look at things and think about what's best, and he's decided to retire. Dana White has announced that Forrest, he's gonna the company, the UFC, they're gonna take care of Forrest, gonna keep him employed in sort of like a front office type-ish job, similar to Matt Hughes, Chuck Liddell. But they're gonna look after him, and I'm glad to hear that. It's always interesting when a fighter retires, and you look back on his career and you think about, man, look at all the things that this person's done. The first winner of the Ultimate Fighter, countdown of 100 fights, the best fights in UFC history. Him and Stephan Bonner, their fight was ranked number 1. There's even, they talked about how Forrest Griffin sort of set the standard for what can be expected or what can be accomplished for a fighter coming off the Ultimate Fighter. Forrest, was the first tough fighter to win a championship. Former UFC light heavyweight champion. He beat Rampage Jackson. Forrest has had a really good career. He's got nothing to be ashamed of. Again, I don't know the guy, but just from what I've read, Forrest has got a different set of priorities now. Before, he was this kind of goofy guy, coming in and taking fights, really good, trained hard. You know, didn't really think much of it, going in there getting beat, just, you know, or not so much beat up, but going in there fighting and just giving it his best. Then he started to think, you know what, I can really hang with these guys, really started to come out. I remember his fight with Tito Ortiz, the first match, and he said that's when he really started to think, you know, I can do this. Got an amazing victory over Shogun Rua, got the title, beat Quentin Jackson, which, you know, that was amazing. Well, also they announced is that he will be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, which I think is amazing. And when I think Hall of Fame, I think someone who's like did their career, been retired a couple of years, and then afterwards they're like, yeah, we're gonna put him in the Hall of Fame. But they decided to induct Forrest. Forrest is, you know, Forrest, he is an icon, and he deserves recognition. I think he's done a lot for the sport. He's made some, you know, he's made history in the sport. Even though he probably hasn't had the long and storied career like you see a lot of guys like Randy Couture, but you know, he's definitely made his mark. And I feel like, you know, he's just in a different place right now. He's married, he's got kids, and that alone, that changes your priority, it changes your perspective on things. So good for him. He's still going to be involved with the sport that he loves. Doesn't have to get punched in the face anymore, you know. Good for him. Good for him. Props to him.